Good afternoon, beautiful souls. Good afternoon. We have had torrential rain here in Victoria, Torquay, Victoria this morning, and now the sun's out. So we're getting, as we love to do in Victoria, getting all seasons in one day. Hey, Min, it's lovely to have you here. So welcome to a new week of the Reconnection Revolution, and particularly this conversation about reconnecting to the natural world and spirit. I've got some fabulous speakers coming in this week, and I just felt inspired to keep the conversation going. I feel like it is just such a nourishing conversation, such a beautiful and important conversation that we get to take outside of what's going on here with us, just in this little bubble, and continue the conversation with friends and family around the dinner table and anywhere that we're connecting with other people, because it really is a centerpiece in how we turn around what's going on in the world. In Australia here, we just had on the weekend a referendum, and it didn't go the way that a lot of people wanted it to go, and it went the way that other people wanted it to go. And of course, this has just been another example of how we have created division and separating friendships and families and people that believe one side and people that believe the other side. And I think as we look at the consequences of all these things, it's just a really great opportunity to reset in our values, reset in how we think about how we approach other people with differing opinions, how we approach other people that make different choices. And when we think about this conversation, particularly with the natural world and spirit, we can get very divisive over conversations around religion. That's a very hot topic for a lot of people. And we can get very opinionated and hot-headed around diet. There's vegan or vegetarian or paleo or carnivore or raw or cooked or whatever it is. You know, we can get so fixated that there is one way, that there is a right way, and it is our way. And this need that humans have to be right is something that can cause great division. And I know that after I studied naturopathy and came out, and I felt like I was so passionate about it that I felt like if I could just convince everyone to think the same way that I did and to do what I do, then, you know, I would solve a million problems for all the people I loved and those that I'd never met before. And this incredible passion to tell everybody what I felt was going to make a difference in their lives sometimes was not received well, and rightfully so, because not everybody needs to think the way that we think. The most powerful way that we can have an impact from this place, really heart-centered place of love, where we care deeply about a subject, that we want other people to understand how we believe it can benefit their lives and the life of the planet, is to be a role model of it. And the older we get, I mean, this can start at any age, but the older we get, I feel the more power that we have behind our voices, because we have so much lived experience, so much observation, that we can talk about having possibly tried. Kim always said, be the example, not the evangelist. Absolutely. And so, you know, having had our feet often in different camps, I went through a phase when I left home and I was in far north Queensland. I was working in hospitality, working in a nightclub. I was pretty well nocturnal, drinking a lot, eating all the wrong foods, and making lots of fun decisions that we make in our 20s that didn't serve my physical or mental health. They were really fun at the time, but when I came back, you know, my mum, who had always lived in, you know, like made all our food from scratch, and we lived on a farm and, you know, had this kind of lifestyle that we've been talking about in this series, took one look at me and was quietly horrified and sent me off to see a naturopath. And that was a turning point for me. But without experiencing making decisions that didn't serve me, I wouldn't have such a passion for having rediscovered the things that really do serve me. So, as I've listened to the different speakers and learned from the different speakers in here, there are different ways of approaching this conversation. And I teach my way because that's the way that I understand. But there are so many different voices out here that are coming at this problem, be it the problem of the health of our planet, or be it the problem of us in our humanity, be it the problem of our physical and mental health, our disconnection from spirit and from intuition. Whatever the problem is that you are seeing, there are different voices and there are different ways of coming at this. I particularly fell in love with this book, Lost Connections, and the ripple effect that I've seen just in my community from having had these conversations. I got a second message. I've had one of my clients has gone off antidepressants. And I had a second message from somebody today that is doing the same thing, both women having been on them for many, many years and had got to a place where they were just taking them out of habit. And there's, like we do these things out of habit. All of us are doing things out of habit that we become slightly unconscious to. And it is when we get into a place like this, where it is safe to have a discussion, there's no fault, blame, guilt, shame. It's simply what's working, what's not working, and what's another possibility, because there's always another possibility. There's always another way when we become stuck or fixated or unhappy with something, be it in our own lives, be it in a life of somebody we love, or be it in the health of the planet. So with the so fabulous Kim Morrison joining us at 1 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 12 noon for those of you in Queensland. She's going to be talking about her experience with using essential oils, which is just such a beautiful and empowering conversation. So what I thought I would talk about between now and when she comes on, what have we got, about 10 or so minutes, is, going back to one of my absolute favorite quotes, which is, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And in my observations, when I had an experience of being in Melbourne, the big city nearest where I live, I took my son to Melbourne for his 16th birthday, and looking at, as a general rule, at a large gathering of people in the city, it made me sad to look at the ill health that I see, the lack of vitality in this color of people's skin, the weight problems, the food that people are eating. And then on the weekend just gone, I was in the city near us in Geelong in a shopping mall. I very rarely go to shopping malls, but I was there. And once again, looking at what is the general population, really feels like a picture of a general sense of a lack of aliveness. We are looking at these distractions. We are looking for things to distract us from the fact that we're not, there's a general unease. We're feeling uneasy. And when I say we, it is, of course, this general conversation. But there is a general sense of unease in people's bodies, unease in people's mental health, unease in the lives we're living. Something is off. And we are grabbing at distractions to distract us from this feeling of unease. And the distractions are crappy food or social media or Netflix or movies and eating and whatever it is. And so, when I think about what makes us come alive, if you think about yourself in the natural world, if you go to the beach, if you go to a botanic gardens, if you go to an old growth forest, if you go hiking, if you get out in your garden, and, you know, where you are out in the natural world, breathing fresh air, this is when we start to come alive. There is, of course, there is an aliveness that comes from listening to amazing music, but the aliveness that comes from that's almost still sound that is nothing, you know, there's no other distraction but the songs of a bird, or the crashing of waves, or wind in the trees. This is, to use the language that was used inside the Reconnecting to Our Natural World inside the Lost Connections book, this is our natural habitat as animals. This is what is in our cells that makes us come alive. It is what fuels our vitality and our sense of aliveness. So if we break it down into our senses, you think about the looking at the natural colors of the world around us, the natural colors of flowers, of all the 1,000 different varieties of greens that we see, the colors, the different blues that we see in the sky, from the palest blue to a deep, deep azure blue. These colors do something to our cells. If you compare the experience of looking at these colors, compared to looking at really artificial colors that are used in clothing, or in furniture, or in wall colors, or, you know, wherever artificial colors are used. Children's toys are a classic example of these sort of vivid, but they're kind of artificial colors. If you start to notice your physical reaction to these things, you may start to think about changing and altering the colors that you have in your home, the things that you surround yourself with. You can think about the experience of going into, for those of you that have been blessed enough to go into like a spa house where they use like just these salt lamps, and there's this soft, warm light, and everything sort of has a more natural colors. The feeling on your immune system, on your system, your vitality is just like this kind of unwinding. And of course, there's essential oils in most places like that. So Kim will talk to you about that in a minute. But just start to observe it. Start to observe it for yourself. What's another one? Our sense of taste. So we're looking at our senses in order to reawaken our sense of aliveness. What about our sense of taste? You think about, you know, picking up something that's been, something like artificial sort of flavors. If you think about, I was watching, my son loves Doritos, the intensely artificial flavors like that, they're sort of quite addictive, and you can't stop stuffing them in your mouth. There's this something that is in those that has been scientifically manipulated to activate that addictive part of our brain. That means you can't just stop at one, you just kind of got to chow down the whole packet. These really artificial flavors, breakfast cereals are a classic. Oh my goodness. So think about your experience as you eat those versus the experience of biting into a beautifully crisp, fresh apple, or any other fruit. You know, I'm particularly enjoying papaya at the moment, and dragon fruit, and kiwis. But, you know, when you think about, really notice the difference in the experience. Laurie and I went to one of our favorite restaurants. We went out for dinner on Saturday night, and this restaurant, it's called Squire's Loft, and they're known for doing a perfect, beautiful steak. And to have a perfectly cooked piece of meat and a little bowl of greens, broccoli and green beans, there is nothing I like better. That simplicity of incredible fresh ingredients, beautifully done, but simple foods. So that's our sense of taste. You know, when you think about the difference between drinking a glass of water that is fresh, filtered water versus water out of the tap, the taste is chalk and cheese. It is so different. When I fill up our water filter, I use a Zazen water filter that's a benchtop one, and you put all the mineral stones in it to remineralize the water. But the flavor is so different. When I pour the water out of the tap into the filter, the smell of chlorine is really quite repulsive. Once you have experienced it, you start to notice your senses become heightened. My senses are very heightened to artificial fragrances, and I'm thinking about laundry detergents when I walk past somebody who washes their clothes in fabric softeners and in like these artificial smells and fragrances. There's just no comparison. There is just no comparison to using what the natural world provides. So that's our sense of smell. What else have we got? A sense of touch. This is one of my favorites. As somebody who has an enormous love for wool, I've got this beautiful stack of wool jumpers of all these divine colors, but the softness of sliding into linen sheets or organic cotton sheets when you slide into bed naked, it's just so special. It's so special. I can't even, like this is actually synthetic. I must, I don't want to pretend like I'm a purist, but as much as possible, choosing natural fabrics that we know in the day that the clothes come to an end, and I've got clothes that were my mum's that are 50 years old now, but one day these clothes will come to an end, and knowing that they're going to not become a pollutant on the earth, that they will actually break down, they're natural fibers that will break down, makes me feel better than these horrible plastic clothes that are causing absolute havoc. What else is a sense of touch? For those of you that came on my little garden tour that I did, like touching the leaves and the fruit and the vegetables and the flowers and things in my garden gives me enormous pleasure. But every afternoon, I also pull off my shoes, rain, hail or shine, and walk my dog in bare feet. My feet kiss. I heard in this series of Alone, Gina Chick is her name, she talked about your feet kissing the earth. It's magic, and it has profound effects on our health, particularly for those of us that through our work environment are spending time on screens and so on. Having that opportunity to rebalance the electrons in our body, there is a lot of irrefutable evidence of the incredible power of grounding. So walk outside and put your hands on the earth and on the grass, on the dirt, wherever it is. If you can get your hands in the dirt. I had a lovely experience yesterday. I went to my mum's house. She's going to be 90 next year. And for anyone that follows me on social media, I sometimes share pictures of her garden, which is, it's got to be seen to be believed. It's absolutely divine. It is the ultimate cottage garden. It's so pretty. It's always full of beautiful flowers and vegetables and herbs and various things. And watching her in her garden yesterday, I can't leave her garden without taking something. She always wants to pull out just a little break off a bit of succulent, just stick this in the ground, or a daisy, or some parsley, or it's just her greatest love. But watching her heading for 90, it reminded me of watching the Blue Zones and these people that are spending time in their garden, harvesting their food, having their hands in the soil. She has no she's not on any medication. She has no ill health. There's the odd ache and pain, and there's a few little niggles, but otherwise she's doing incredibly well. And I think a lot of her physical health is just from having worked in the garden and been, lived an active life. I don't think she's ever set foot in a gym, but it is that active life and being connected to the natural world. So we did sight, sound, touch, and taste. And now the ultimate. We get to bring our beautiful guest on today, Kim Morrison. Kim, welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us, honey.
Oh, such a pleasure, sweetheart.
So I think most people in my audience know who Kim is, but for those of you that may not, Kim is the founder of the beautiful aromatherapy company 28 and has been an aromatherapist for 27 years. Is that right, Kim? Or does it need updating? 27 years?
Gosh, 91 I graduated.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I can't add it
somebody
up,
else
but
can
yes.
somebody else can do the math for us. For
a while.
For a long time, and is also known for her work in supporting women with self-love. And so there is nobody better that I know of to talk to us about this amazing subject, the healing, nurturing, empowering, nourishing, nurturing role of essential oils. So thank you so much, Kim. What I want to do is to start this conversation. I just think it's so important to go back to where the passion started from. So maybe if we go back there.
For me, the passion of oils, it's an interesting thing because I had a grandma that loved baking. So I had this love of baking, but my other grandmother had a love of gardening and plants. And sadly, she passed away when I was 9, but she passed on that real, I don't know, she always used to say to me, don't forget to hug trees, don't forget to smell the roses. Her name was Myrtle Millicent Rose. And so she had flowers in her name and things like that. So I think when I created or had a passion for oils, it really started when I traveled across to Melbourne from New Zealand and went along to this talk and heard these 2 women on stage. And I just remember looking at them thinking, I want what they've got. They were the founders of Essence Aromatherapy, which was back in 1988. And they had just launched in Essence. And I seriously fell in love with everything about them. They were sisters. They had beautiful skin. They were mothers. They were best friends. There was just so much about them that I loved that I ended up stalking them and following them. And of course, in those days, we didn't have social media. So I just went to every event that they ever did. And I just wanted to do it. I wanted to have it. I wanted to be it. And I ended up graduating from a number of their courses, and then I went on and did my aromatherapy diploma and graduated on Valentine's Day in 1991. And it was from there that they asked me if I would like to be their trainer, one of their trainers and international presenters. And I was nervous as, didn't want to do it. My heart wanted to, but my head kept thinking, I can't. I'm not a speaker. I go blotchy red and I can't hold an audience. And oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And that's when they said to me, use the powers of the oils. And through my studying, I was also doing long distance running and just started to really see the profound impact they had, not only on my physical well-being, but also my mental, emotional side of things. So I would use a drop of sandalwood on my heart and my gut. I would use it to breathe in, to become my coat of armor, to support me. I would use frankincense to help release the fear. I would use orange as the oil for communication. I would use lavender to calm my nerves. I would use marjoram to bring me back into a grounded state. I'd use peppermint to think clearly. Like, you got to really see the powers of these plants, but most importantly, the potency and the quickness, the effectiveness of when you inhale an aroma. And that's where I learnt very much around the power of smell, probably our most underrated of all senses, but it's probably one that locks us, links us, and grounds us to nature more than anything else. So yeah, since 1991, I have been presenting, talking, speaking, loving, living aromatherapy.
Yep. There is so many classic examples that we can use just in everyday life. It is that smell of freshly cut grass, or rain in the garden, or there are many examples that we can think of. But then to use essential oils that we have on hand to reawaken these things in the brain without having to wait for somebody to cut the grass.
Well, we also know that the essential oils in particular have a very small measurement, Dalton measurement. They're very small molecules, and they cross the blood-brain barrier very quickly. So it's one of the few therapies that actually works instantaneously. And we all know that. You can smell a perfume, a deodorant, an aftershave, and it can transport you back in time immediately. Music does the same thing, actually, but predominantly smell. If you had a grandmother that you loved that grew lavender, you'd probably love lavender. If you had a grumpy grandmother that grew lavender, you might not have a positive association to the smell of lavender. That's how powerful smell is. It is very closely linked to our emotions. So it's important. We can retrain the brain. We can learn to smell, and we certainly can understand the potency and power of smell, but you have to become a little bit more aware of that in order to change that.
Yeah. Okay. So if we think about maybe the physical, mental, emotional, and just do a little breakdown, because essential oils can be used, the plethora of different ways that we can use oils. Maybe if we start with the physical, so looking at using them in hair care, skin care, washing our clothes. I mean, there's all these different examples. So yeah, maybe if we think about if we hear how you use them in your everyday life in that way.
We can use one oil in particular. We could say use an oil or a plant, or I think peppermint. Peppermint is pretty easily grown. It is also a beautiful herb to use as tea, or to add to salads. Any of the mint family is pretty beautiful. But peppermint on a physical level, it's an incredible oil because it has a warming yet cooling effect. So you can use peppermint in a bath or a compress, and you'll find the skin feels cool, but it also feels really warm. That's a pretty powerful thing, and that's due to the amount of menthol in the plant. So each oil is made up of different constituents, and high levels of menthol you'll find in things like rosemary, peppermint, spearmint. All of the menthol oils have a very high component of menthol in it. But we know we can use peppermint physically to help heal sore muscles, or to calm lactic acid buildup, or to achy, tired muscles. We also know we can use it physically to help alleviate a headache. So, you could do one drop of peppermint between your fingers and rub it into the temples and onto the base of the neck. And not only do you get this beautiful aromatic lift, but you also it gets absorbed by the hair follicle very quickly. And because, again, it's so close, if you place it in the area where you've got the pain, the headache, you can alleviate it within 3 to 4 seconds, taking some deep breaths. Of course, there's always other reasons why a headache can come along, so we need to address those things as well. It could be you're dehydrated, didn't get enough sleep, you're stressed, you're tired, whatever. So a headache, you've got to remember there's often other things that come into play. But this is a beautiful way to support the healing or to get over it. Then if we look at it from a mental point of view, I mean, peppermint is very refreshing. So if you're getting clouded thoughts, jaded thinking, heavy mindset, not feeling very clear or focused, peppermint is one of those beam me up Scotty oils. It has such a effervescent awakening. It really hits the nasal cavity very quickly, hits the hypothalamus, releases chemicals and endorphins, which make you feel more alert and focused. So we can use it like that. Now, you could do an instant smelling it from the bottle. You could place a drop onto a tissue and tuck it into your top. You could actually create a spritzer, an aromatic spritz, and lavender and peppermint is one of my favorites. You can create it that way. You can do a compress with a flannel or a face washer and just take some deep breaths. So there are so many different ways that you can use it to help alleviate mind and also body. You can also place it into a diffuser like that thing I've got right there. And then everybody gets to enjoy the benefits of it, because anyone breathing is going to be affected by essential oils.
Yeah.
Then another cool way to do it is in the car. I love to put a couple of drops on a makeup pad or a tissue, place it into the air vent and turn the air up, and everybody gets this beautiful aromatic environment. So peppermint is a great pick-me-up for our mental, it's our physical. But then when it comes to our emotional, maybe you're feeling very chaotic, maybe you're feeling very overwhelmed, maybe you're feeling you're procrastinating, you're lethargic. Any of those drivers, peppermint is a great, as I said before, pick-me-up. So once again, you could use it as an inhalation, a tissue, a spritz. I love to have a peppermint spritzer next to my desk when I'm actually working or trying to focus on getting an article written or doing some research or writing a masterclass or any of those sorts of things. So peppermint to me is phenomenal. And then from a spiritual point of view, I think one of the most beautiful things about peppermint is it really is about heightening your connectivity. So if you wanted to really step into the power of prayer or meditation, even though we could use more calming oils like lavender, marjoram, orange, you add a drop of peppermint into a blend like that, and you're pretty much activating the 8th chakra. You are opening yourself up. And peppermint is actually related predominantly to the throat chakra. So that is about our thinking, our thoughts, our words, the way we speak. So peppermint is a powerful oil for all of those things. But also the activation is probably my favorite word associated with peppermint. It is an activating, refreshing, uplifting oil.
I did not know all of that about peppermint at all. I know it makes a fantastic tea and a beautiful ingredient in, like I love ripping up leaves to put in a green salad but I had no idea about particularly, there's a few things in there that I've made a note.
Well, and I didn't even talk about digestion. You could put a drop of peppermint on your tummy, rub it really fast and frictional massage into your tummy after you've eaten something, just to help as a digestive aid. It's also fantastic for travel sickness, morning sickness. Yeah. Like it is one of those really clarifying, opening, heartwarming, yet cooling oils that you'll ever come across. I love peppermint.
I'm hearing this. I think you've sold me as well.
It's a beautiful oil.
Yeah. I love the idea of having a bit of a medicine chest of these things. One of our go-tos in this house is doing eucalyptus inhalations when people are all stuffy. We still do the, head over the silver bowl with the towel.
Well, eucalyptus also has high levels of menthol in it, which is why, again, and if you think about it, plants talk to us, and I think you'll love this for this beautiful series that you're offering everybody. When you look at the doctrine of signatures and look at a plant, the plant is actually talking to you. It's telling you what it's good for. So eucalyptus, peppermint, rosemary, they're all the oil sits in the leaf of the tree or the plant. And when you think about it, what do the leaves do for the plant? They breathe. It's where the photosynthetic reactions occur. But the leaves are the breathing apparatus of the tree. So what would it be good for? Any of the leaf oils are fantastic for our breathing. So it relates basil, rosemary, marjoram, thyme, any oregano, any of the pepperminty herbal oils that we get from the leaf is very, very good for our chest region and for breathing. Then you look at something like frankincense. Now that oil we get from the resin of the tree, it runs through the veins of the tree. So what do we think frankincense would be good for us? It is brilliant for the veins. It is a great vasodilator. It is a wonderful cleansing oil. So it is fantastic to use in a body massage blend to help us detoxify. But it's also an incredible reverence oil. It's oil to connect us to spirit. You only have to think of frankincense, myrrh, and gold as the gifts for Jesus Christ to realize there's a real spiritual element there. So the resin of the tree is very much linked to the resin or the veins, the blood flow through us. Then you've got the flowers. Now, flowers are about, and the fruits are about the fertility, the expression of the plant. The flowers are there to attract the bees. So, of course, any of the floral oils, our geranium, our lavender, our rose, jasmine, neroli, they all have aphrodisiac qualities, but they also have very good balancing for our hormones and also to support our incredible ability of our reproductive system, our hormonal system. And then you've got things like the bark, cinnamon bark. You've got pine, needle, all of these beautiful woody, cypress, sandalwood. They're very grounding oils, but they're beautiful to use on the skin. So the bark, the skin of the tree. Have to be a little bit careful with cinnamon because it's very skin sensitive. So only a very, very small amount is required. A little bit like wintergreen. They're both very potent skin active oils. But you only have to think about where the oil comes from to then understand how it could help and support you. And I love that. I love looking at a plant and then thinking, how are you talking to me? And then picturing my Nana, Myrtle Millicent Rose, hugging that or brushing her hands through the plants, because that is like really increasing our magnesium. When you touch trees and plants, it inspires our reaction with magnesium. Of course, the plants breathe out oxygen, breathe in carbon dioxide. So we have this beautiful symbiotic relationship with nature. The world would survive very well without humans, but there's no way we would survive here without plants. And so my greatest wish out of this particular conversation is that we have a real deep reverence and connection to nature. More importantly, we have huge gratitude and respect for her.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't have said it better, Kim. That's so, so beautiful and so, so perfect. I think I'm trying to think as people tune into this, what are going to be the burning questions? I wish you had have asked. I wish you had have asked. And I think, I'm going to guess that there's going to be a desire for, okay, so if we're starting somewhere, starting with this, what are the top 3 or the top 5 to have that support, maybe support, I'm thinking, what are the top things that people are suffering or struggle with? You've talked about peppermint as a digestive, but maybe like for anxiety or worry or fear, what's your pick of oils for those?
Well, I think what's so beautiful, so here's something that might help people, because I can tell you everything that I know. But there's so much information out there, and the science and behind aromatherapy is growing more and more. Of course, we can't patent an essential oil. So that's why I think they're one of the most beautiful healing things to have in your repertoire at home. But because they're not patented, there's no, a lot of people say there's not a lot of money in it, which I understand as well. But I think sometimes it's never about the money, in all honesty. It's about what's the way that works so powerfully for me and my family. And I think to start with, you would want oils in your home that really connected into the well-being. So the first aid oils would probably be where I would start. But just so that you know, one of the ways that I educate people to understand how to use the oils more than anything, because there's so much information, and I could talk all day on this, and people may or may not remember things. So I tapped into my beautiful Nana many years ago and just wondered, how can I educate people more? And that is where these beautiful aroma cards were born. And so I pictured if my Nana she always said, if the plants could talk to you, what would it say? And so let's just say peppermint. I pictured if peppermint could talk to me, what would be her spiritual message for me? And there's 50 of these oils. So I had to really, and I often held the oil or the plant, pictured Nana, pictured the plant. And so peppermint's message is, it is in the overload that I am able to activate and balance my energy as the warmth of love fills my soul. And so when I think about peppermint, when I use her and I say that quote, it's almost like peppermint is giving me a message, a sign from the universe. Then on the back of each card, I wrote as much as I could about the mental, emotional, and physical qualities and benefits of that plant. I talk about where it's from, whether it's a herbal, floral, citrus, or woody smell. I talk about whether it's a top, middle, or base. I talk about where the plant comes from or where we get the best peppermint oil. Its chakra, how we extract it, and its key actions. So whether it's a stimulant, a relaxant, or a balancer, or whatever. Then I went into the emotional support. What do I need more of and what do I need less of in my life? Then I give it a tip, any contraindications or considerations for its use, and then the 4 key words, whether in this one is refreshing, cooling, warming, and activating. So these cards, they seriously share so much information. Now, back to your question, I created the little booklet to go with it. So you said anxiety, so there's physical and emotional support in here. So when I go into the emotional support and I look up, or actually I'll go to, let me have a look. Anxiety. Isn't that funny? I don't have the word in here, but let me just think about this. Anxiety, fear, concern,
maybe
worry. Let me have a look. Yes. So when you want to feel, well, what's the opposite of worry? Maybe it's to feel calm, relaxed, peaceful. So when I look at all of those, we look up and we find the word relaxed. So the oils to use would be German chamomile, Roman chamomile, juniper, lavender, petitgrain, rosewood, wintergreen, ylang ylang. And then you start to go, well, I haven't got all of those oils. What have I got? Well, hopefully you'll have lavender in your repertoire. So you could definitely use that for anxiety, fear, worries, concerns. You could also, if you didn't have ylang ylang, when you look up in here for ylang ylang, there is other oils you could use. So in that relaxed oil, I could try petitgrain, juniper, rosewood, wintergreen, or just stick to a chamomile. So I didn't want everyone to feel like you had to have 50 oils in your repertoire, but you could use whatever oils you've got. And here's the most beautiful thing. If we think the smell of lavender, most of us would know it. If you can imagine a lavender plant and you can imagine the smell of lavender, already you are having a biochemical physiological reaction in your system. That is how potent the thought of smell and aroma is. So you don't even need all of this. You can actually think it. It's the same thing as visualizing or being hypnotized or tapping into the unconscious mind of what that plant would do if I was inhaling it right now. And even if you don't understand the power of something like ylang ylang, say you've never smelt it before, but it's one of the relaxed oils. When you look up the card ylang ylang, there's a picture of all of the plants on it. You can look at that. You can understand that it's a floral oil and it's got a dense, very heavy, deep noted smell to it. You could almost visualize it, read the quote, and now you're tapping into the virtues of that exquisite, amazing plant. So the booklet was really designed to give you the ability to use whatever oil you needed for whatever condition or emotional space that you're in. It is more about what you want more of in your life than less of. So I wanted to do that to change the neurochemical loops in the mind. So if we go, I'm always anxious, Well, if I'm always anxious, what would I rather be? Or when I'm not anxious, what am I? And that's when you think about the opposite and then look the word up. So it gets you already trained into thinking what you want more of in your life rather than what you want less of. So anyone that's not sure about oils, I would say this is probably, I'm a bit proud of it. And it doesn't matter which brand of oils you use. It's not branded any particular oil. I did it for all oil users so that it's an educational tool. Now, the most beautiful thing is the Budrum Men's Shed here on the Sunshine Coast also made these little stands. And so if I did draw peppermint, I could put that next to my computer for the day and just keep reminding myself every time I look at that, or I have it by the keys and everyone that walks out the house reads it. It's just, to me, a beautiful way of tapping into this incredible resource called Mother Nature.
I'm getting the vibes of, instead of having, like tarot cards or something, where you pull a card, like you pull an essential oil card. It's like, what do I need today? And just shuffle through them and pull one out. I love that idea.
Well, also you can do a 1-card reading or a 4-card. So often I'll get a client, or I'll sit there, I'll tell my beautiful students or anyone, shuffle the pack and put out an intention. We could do it as a group if you wanted. Yeah. So why don't I do it for you? Yeah. So why don't you set an intention for this beautiful group as I'm shuffling it? And you don't have to say what that intention is. You just hold the space for everybody. And when you're ready, I'll stop shuffling and I'll show you what a 4-card reading looks like. Okay. So then I stop where the pack of cards are and I put them down left to right, 4 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got them in a row in front of me. The first card is based on my past. So for this group, if I read this quote and you all tap into whatever you feel and imagine what beautiful Edwina has set an intention for us around, then this card says, forgiveness allows me to release and clear the ties that no longer serve me, awakening my inner strength and finding acceptance for what is. So that's a message for all our past. It's quite beautiful, actually. Then the second card is about being in the present. So in this present moment, this card in particular is saying to us all, steady head and centered heart. I stand strong throughout the challenges that life presents. Steady head, centered heart. Then the third card is about our future. It's about the manifestation, the visualization. What is I call them the aromatic angels. What are the aromatic angels wanting us to hear? I breathe with ease, cleansing and connecting to this beautiful mind and body. So that's something that we can all focus on. And then if all the aromatic angels came together, the 4th card is an overall message for everything and everyone in our space, which is loving myself is easy because I am beautiful. I attract love, joy, and happiness into all of my being. That is so appropriate for you, Edwina, and this group. And I just read all of these and I center. Then I turn them all over and I have a blend of immortelle or helichrysum, rosewood, rosemary, and rose. So Nana's here, rose, myrtle, millicent, rose. Isn't that interesting? Rosewood, rosemary, and rose are all here for this group. One's the wood, one's the leaf, one's the flower. And then immortelle is also this beautiful flower, which is all about, lasting forever, everlast. And so then I'd look at those 4 oils, beautiful Edwina, and I would make a blender and I would use that as my aromatic dressing for the day, or I'd put it in the diffuser, or I'd make up an aroma mist. I could use that for the week, and I'd put the overview card into my little stand as my message from all of the angels. So, and if I didn't have one of those oils, you could swap it out for another woody oil or another middle note or another oil that works for the solar plexus chakra. Like, it is all about alternation. The message is important and then creating a blend from there. It just helps us to set an intention, create the life that we want, but using the healing and most phenomenal powers of Mother Nature herself.
The rose has a significant meaning. I mean, the rose is the theme that's here. So the meaning of rose is
love. I mean, you only have to think about in history. Cleopatra was the queen of roses. I mean, they reckon she lured Mark Antony down the Nile. She had her ship waxed and rubbed down with rose wax, rose oil. She had the sails dipped in rose water, as legend tells it. And then to lure Mark Antony into the bedroom, she had rose petals everywhere. So rose is the ultimate love oil. It is the highest vibrational oil of all essential oils. It is up there with the vibrational healing power of love, and it is one of the most exquisite perfumes to use. It is the oil, I'll tell you, it's enchanting, alluring, indulging, and nurturing. It is the oil that will help create more abundance, compassion, creativity, connection, courageousness, enlightenment, joy, kindness, love, nurturing, passion, peace, sensuality, strength, worthiness, and wisdom. So she's my favorite oil. It's
make me cry, Kim.
I know. I love her. She's also connected to the heart chakra, which is so perfect for this group. And she's also, even though she's a floral oil, which predominantly most floral oils are middle notes, rose is actually a base note. It is so strong. A lot of people will smell rose oil first and foremost, and will almost, some people say it's a bit sickly when you first smell it. That's how dense. It's also the most expensive. If you were to buy a 10 ml bottle of rose oil, it would cost you over $1,000 for 10 mils. It's $100 per mil because of how it's extracted and how many. You need a ton of rose petals to fill that bottle. So she truly is the most magnificent. And how I got around, not everybody has $1,000 in their back pocket for a bottle of rose oil. So there's a number of blends that I created that have rose in it, that therefore allow for that vibrational healing, loving energy to be in there. So romance and intimacy, balance and harmony, courage and confidence. I think there's detox and strengthen. So they're all my blends that have rose in it. And again, you can also buy rose diluted in jojoba to get the benefits of it, but you don't have to pay the higher price tag.
Yeah,
that was beautiful, that blend. I want to make it. I want to make this blend. It's so, so beautiful.
Yeah, we might have a conversation about that. There's something brewing. I said to you before this call, there's something magic brewing, Kim, and that's it.
Well, this is where we get to be a modern day witch. You know, I love making blends. I love bringing the power of oils and thinking of someone. And every one of my breakthrough clients, I make up a blend for them. Every one of my children, when they were born, all my oil blends have a story behind them for what I use them with and how I've aromatically anchored myself to having more of that in my life. So yeah, you can use oils in a very profound and beautiful way.
Roses are magic. I received a dozen white roses from my coach in Canada, if you please, organized, this beautiful bouquet of flowers. And I just had a private client finish up with me just a week ago, and I sent her a big bouquet of flowers as well. It's just, flowers for me is just, but you've captured it in a whole nother way, which is absolutely magic. So we touched on it, but I don't want to leave this conversation without a beautiful ritual to connect to spirit. So if you have something that you use, or just let me know what you feel like is a beautiful ritual that the people tuning into this can take away using essential oils and connection to spirit.
One of my favorite things to do every day is, there's two things I do on a daily basis. The diffuser, so this beautiful thing here, or a candle vaporizer I'll use as well. I like the candle at night because I love that orange warm flame. So creating a blend or using 1, 2, or 3 oils or using a pre-made blend is one of the most beautiful things to do. But as I do that and place each drop into the diffuser, I don't just shake them in. I feel like each one of them is liquid gold. And what the plant has created for us to enjoy, I think of Nana, and I just give such gratitude and thanks for those beautiful oils. But there's a quote that I find myself saying, and I've shared this a number of times, but I cannot get it out of my head, because in my humble opinion, as I put oils into a diffuser or my vaporizer, each drop to me signifies the drop of light within me. And to connect to that light, I'm intentionally putting an oil in there to create an aromatic environment that allows me to tune in at an unconscious level to source, spirit, universe, the quantum physical realm, whatever you want to call it. That is how important it is to me. And that quote is, if there is light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. If there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. If there's harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. If there's order in the nation, there is peace in this world. And every time I light my diffuser or my vaporizer and I think of that quote, I think of the light in all of us. Even in the darkness of times, and you only have to think of Israel or war or sadness or tragedies, and there is a lot of sadness at times in the world, I still believe in the power of love, and I still believe good will always prevail over evil. If I can continuously focus on keeping my light shining bright, working on myself with rituals that support me to feel more of in my life, then I'm contributing to this planet by being and showing up as my best version of self. So oils are like my best friend. They're like my ally. They're the friend that's always there, because we're the constant. We're the thing present in all aspects of our life. What else could I have close to me without relying on anything or anyone is the visualization of those oils or plants, or better still, the actual plant, the oil itself. And so every time you light a diffuser, every time you do an inhalation, every time you do a beautiful body boost ritual, every time you run a bath and place a couple of drops of oil in there, in my humble opinion, you are connecting to the divine. Who else made something as extraordinary as a plant that has aromatics in it, that taste, smell, and feel incredible? I mean, you can't get more spectacular than Mother Nature herself. So yes, that is how I connect in. And with my meditations, my prayer, my body boost, it's magical. With breath work, any of them you can add to the exceptional experience of any of those rituals through the power of smell.
I think there's nothing to add.
Except you to get a bottle of rose oil. That's what you need. And everyone on this call, anyone that's here deserves a bottle of rose oil. Anyone watching this, everybody needs rose. Oh, just picture the rose herself. Look at the picture of Rosa Damascena. I don't know if I've got it close enough.
Yes.
But she is the most beautiful. And my dream, maybe we have to do this together, Edwina. My dream is to one day take a group of people to Turkey or Jaipur in India and actually watch the extraction of pure rose oil. It's been a dream of mine since I was 19. It was a dream of mine to get to the lavender fields, which I did in 2017 and 2019. And now I have a dream to take a group of people to Turkey, Bulgaria, or Jaipur to see the extraction of rose oil. So yeah.
I think it's Turkey. Turkey's been on my list forever. The color, the jewelry, just everything is just like, it's been on my list and I've never been. So
we have to go. That's where our rose oil comes from, Bulgaria, Morocco, or Turkey, depending on who's got the best at the time. So I think it would be something. And I've seen images of people lying in tons of rose petals. And I just think we all need to go and do that. Can you imagine the smell? Can you imagine it? I've got to make it happen in my lifetime.
Heaven on earth, quite literally. Thank you so much, Kim. It is always just the most divine pleasure to have this space with you, and I'm just so grateful for your time. Thanks, honey.
My absolute pleasure. Much love to you all. Thank you, sweetheart.
All right, beautiful souls. That's it from us today. So much love, and bye for now.